Whether you are in yoga means whether you are following spiritual practices or you are in bhoga, you are enjoying the world. Sangarator, whether you are in company or sangha vihinaha, without company, in solitude. That is not what determines your spiritual level. What determines your spiritual level is yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandatyeva, whose mind is reveling in the thought of Brahman. Then you are really enjoying. Nandati means you revel, you enjoy. Most people believe they are spiritual if they go to Rishikesh, Kedarnath, etc., to places of pilgrimage. Yes, anybody can go to a place of pilgrimage and find peace. The question is, right here in Delhi city with all the hustle, bustle and excitement going on, if you are able to maintain serenity, if you are able to maintain yoga in the environment of bhoga here in Delhi, then you are a person of outstanding caliber. If you go to a place of pilgrimage and find peace, is no great deal, no big deal. This is what a Muslim poet said of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. The greatest tribute he paid to him was, he says, in this Kali Yuga, you brought Satya Yuga down on earth. In this city of Delhi, if you are able to bring Satya Yuga, truth, if you are able to bring a sattvic way of life, if you are able to think of the higher in the middle of Connaught Place, then you are a person, truly spiritual person. Because it's possible, he's telling us. If it's not possible, why would he tell us? 65.
Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyo pajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate.
All sorrows are destroyed. The intellect of the tranquil-minded soon becomes steady. So in verse 64 he says, when you exercise your intellect, sense control is nothing but exercising of the intellect over your sense contact, it leads to peace. In this verse he is saying, when you operate out of this peace, buddhi paryavatishthate, your intellect becomes sharper. And in this way, intellect leading to peace and peace leading to a sharper intellect, thus you go to the highest perfection. In that serenity, all sorrows are destroyed. So, peace is happiness. The question is, what is happiness? Where do you get happiness? What is the formula for happiness? The Gita gives us this unique formula for happiness. In these 4 days, if you don't remember anything, if you don't take back anything with you, this one thing please take back, because this is very important. All of us are chasing happiness in life. We don't know where happiness lies. We don't know how to get happiness. So what is the formula for happiness? Happiness equals number of desires actualized, fulfilled, divided by number of desires harbored. You get that? Happiness equals number of desires actualized, means fulfilled, divided by number of desires harbored. Assuming you accept this formula for the time being, in order to increase your happiness, what must you do? Either increase the desires actualized, either increase the numerator or reduce the denominator. What are we doing? Be truthful. You are not reducing the denominator. You are only trying, all of us, all over the world, we are only trying to increase the numerator. All our lives we have only one passion, and that is, how do I fulfill my desires? By hook or by crook? The truth of the matter is that the numerator is in fact irrelevant. It doesn't matter what the numerator is. It is the denominator that determines the level of your happiness. Let's take your own experience. I'm sure this happens everywhere, but an outstanding example of this is a lady who goes into a sari shop to buy saris. Usually she goes quite clear in her mind that this is the type of sari that I want, and I want to buy one sari only. She knows what her budget is. She walks into the shop. I don't know about Delhi, but in Bombay they've mastered the art of salesmanship. So you walk in there and they say, welcome, come, sit, this, that and the other. What will you have? Pepsi, Coke, coconut water. And they give you whatever it is that you ask for. And then they ask you, okay, what can I do for you? The lady specifies exactly what she wants, very clearly. The salesman understands what she wants. But what he does is, he pulls out 25 saris, none of which meet with her requirement. So the first few times when he unravels the sari, and you know what they do? They actually wear it to show her what it looks like. First few saris that he pulls out, her intellect is available. She says, but this is not what I said I wanted. Do you have what I need or no? Yes. But what is the harm in seeing? Just see. She accepts that, and that's the end of her. So she sits there, and usually ladies don't go alone, they go in a battalion. 2-3 of them go together. So she sits there and says, by the time he shows the 7th or 8th sari, she turns around to her friend and said, isn't that nice? Quickly he grabs the opportunity. Shall I keep this aside for you? Like this, he set aside 5 saris for her. Mind you, she's gone in there to buy only one. Suddenly she realizes, oh, it's getting late, I have to send the car for my husband. She attacks him. Do you have the one that I want or no? You haven't shown me that. He, relax, I've got it. And he pulls it out from underneath. He's kept it with him all the time, yet he shows her everything else. She buys the sari and she walks out of the shop. You know what's happened? She has fulfilled one desire. She has walked out with 5 more. Her happiness has shrunk. So she goes home and these 5 desires are festering within her. This is what's happening to us with every experience. All that the Gita says is, again I'm reiterating, the Gita doesn't say you must not have objects of the world. By all means have the world. Have as much as you want, increase your assets, acquisitions, possessions. But never should you increase your desires, because then your happiness shrinks. Suppose you accept this formula and you change your pursuit completely. Irrespective of what the numerator is, you make a concerted effort to reduce the denominator, your happiness will increase in leaps and bounds. Until somehow, by some method, if you bring down the denominator to 0, what happens? Infinite happens. You know it all. The question is, why are you not doing it? There's a huge gap between knowing and doing. And it is this knowing-doing gap that you must bridge. That's all that you proved. You know the knowledge. Unnecessarily I wasted my time and effort coming here. All that you have to do now is implement it. Put it into practice. Have a conviction. Somehow or the other I must deal with that denominator. Because only human beings can do it. And you and I belong to this rare species, human. And among the rare human species, we belong to the rare category of Indians, It is only in India that spiritual knowledge abounds. Therefore, it is said that The gods in heaven used to pray that they have enough punya, punya means merit, left within them so that they get a birth in India. What a statement, what an inspiring statement. It is true even today. You will say, no, that is not correct. Now it's changed. The punya you require to be born as an American. No. Because there you increase the numerator. You don't have the wherewithal to reduce the denominator. It is only here that this knowledge exists. And we must have that conviction. We must have the dynamism to pursue with it, live it, become role models for others, spread this knowledge to others so that this great country of ours can regain its original glory. Don't you feel like doing it? 66.
नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य न चायुक्तस्य भावना न चाभावयतः शान्तिः अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम्.
Ayukta has neither intellect nor bhavana. Bhavana is translated as contemplation. We'll shortly see what it is. And without bhavana, there is no peace. How can there be happiness for the one without peace? So in this verse, see, you have to get an idea of the summary, the whole picture from verse 60 to 68. Verse 60 speaks of how the senses drag the mind away. Verses 61 to 66 deal with the importance of the intellect. In 67 he says, that mind which has been carried away by the senses now carries the intellect away. So here in 66, what he's saying is, when you have no control, throughout he's speaking of control. From 60 to 68 he's speaking of control. 62, 63 he tells us what happens when you don't have control, stairway to destruction. 64 he gives us the formula for the prescription for sense control. 65 he says, and then that leads to peace. In 65 he says that the peace, in that peace that you have achieved as a result of exercising self-control, buddhi paryavatishthate, your intellect gets sharper, and thus you get to the ultimate state of realization. Here he is saying a person who is disunited means if you don't control yourself, you have neither intellect nor bhavana. Bhavana is the capacity to contemplate upon your goal, organize your activities, achieve the goal, and devotion. So bhavana is a combination of intellectual focus and emotional surrender. When both come together, when there is this integration of the mind and intellect, then there is crystallization of thought. Just as those of you who studied chemistry will know, a solution of copper sulfate, as it is saturated, when you keep saturating it, heating it, what happens? A time comes when the solution results in crystallization. At one moment it's liquid, next moment the beautiful crystals of copper sulfate emerge. Similarly, within us, in the mind, you keep thinking, what must this Atman be like? Your intellect is trying to break through this ignorance and get to the understanding of Atman. And your mind surrenders to that. There's devotion for God. When the two come together and you keep thinking, constantly you're thinking about it, you reach a stage where there is crystallization. Suddenly the solution appears to you. This happens in every field. It happens in the field of medicine, it happens in the field of science, it happens in every field. Einstein said that. Keep thinking, keep thinking, keep thinking, until you reach a stage when there's sudden crystallization and the solution appears to you. In order to get to that state of crystallization of thought, you need to deploy both your intellectual faculties as well as emotional surrender, devotion. 67.
Indriyani मनुष्याणां हि चरताम् यन्मनोनुविधीयते तदस्य हरति प्रज्ञां वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि.
This verse with verse 60 carries away one's discrimination as the wind carries away a boat in water. In this verse, he's using a famous metaphor that is used often in the scriptures, where your passage through life is equated to crossing the ocean of samsara. In order to cross a body of water, a lake, what do you need? You need to be in a boat. And that boat needs a captain. The captain consults a compass, and with the help of the compass is able to steer you through the stormy waters, the choppy seas, to the other shore. You reach the harbor and then you jump onto the shore. This has been compared to the individual's progress through life. The boat represents the individual. The ocean represents the world, which is full of ups and downs. The wind, passions of the mind. When the wind is strong, the boat capsizes. Similarly, when your mind is full of desires, the individual breaks down. The captain represents your intellect, and the compass represents your conscience. When your individuality is guided by the intellect and you are able to calm the passions, the winds, the intellect consults the compass, your conscience, and steers you through life's experiences. If you are able to go through with that, then you reach the harbor of meditation. And at the harbor, when you meditate, you cross over to the shore of immortality. So your passage through life is from the shore of mortality to the shore of immortality. Now what he's saying here is, what is crucial in this whole scenario is your buddhi, intellect. So what he says is, that mind, you remember the diagram we saw yesterday. Your first line of defense is the senses. The senses fall for the sense objects. So your senses have gone over to the other side. Your senses have been vanquished. The senses drag the mind away. And then he spent 6 verses to convey to us the importance of the intellect. Now he says in 67, that mind which has been carried away by the senses now drags your intellect away. You've already seen your buddhi nashat pranashyati. You lose your intellect and you've lost yourself. So, if he hadn't interspersed, if he hadn't introduced these 6 verses between 60 and 67, then you would have taken notes. All of us take notes, right? At least the most sincere ones take notes. You would have said, senses drag the mind, mind drags the intellect, and you're gone. And you don't understand the importance of it. You don't understand what is happening to you. So, he spent 6 verses to convey to us the importance of the intellect. And then he says, this intellect that is of vital importance to your sustenance as a human being is carried away, violently carried away by the mind, just as the wind carries away a boat in the waters. The wind represents the passions of the mind. So, the 60, see, Arjuna's question in verse 54 is, who is a perfect individual? What is perfection in a human being? In verse 55, he gives the definition of a perfect person. Definition of a perfect person is one who has eliminated all desires from the mind as a result of having access to Atman. Atmanyev Atmana Tushtaha, who revels in Atman. Then he goes on with various other descriptions. Then his focus zeroes in on sense control. If you remember, he says, Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matpara. Having controlled them all, having controlled all the senses, then sit in meditation upon me. Me means Atman. Then he understands that you and I don't have sense control. So he embarks on a few verses to explain to us how important sense control is, how to exercise that sense control, and how to prevent your mind, senses, mind and intellect from getting completely carried away by the world. He's got up to here. At this point, we break and we continue the rest of the verses tomorrow.